here we go. This is an impromptu video. You know, I should turn the engine off. Alright. This is an impromptu video. Just watched a whole bunch of these that I did. Some of the everybody sees the super, nobody sees the man. I really got to work on that Superman voice because it's too... When I go high, it's all right. But when I go low, it doesn't... It's too low. It's almost menacing how low it is. I want it closer to Ben, but without the accent. Like with Ben, when I do Ben Grimm, it's... Last night, my wife, she met me at the door. She was wearing a sexy negligee, yeah. She was coming home. So anyway, I know, same old joke. Let's see if I can do something around there. Register for Superman, but right around there. That sounds right in my head. I don't know how it'll sound on a video. Probably going to do the Johnny Storm video right after this. He's the last member of the Fantastic Four. I need to do him, Doom, and then an overview of what the Fantastic Four movie should look like. So, yeah. State of the video channel. That's pretty much what I'm doing here. Don't really have any songs planned. Still trying to get one of these out a week. You work a full-time job. I can't record at work. You work a full-time job. I'm trying to do this. I'm doing other stuff. Doing a lot of other stuff. 2019 was a very busy year, and this is 2020. This is CNN. That's not even right. That's got to get into my James Earl Jones voice there when I do. My sister, you have a sister. Obi-Wan was right to hide her from me. Now his failure is complete. If you won't turn to the dark side, perhaps she will. This is CNN. Hey guys, I'm saying goodbye to Lisa. You must avenge my death, Simba. I love James Earl Jones. I haven't seen everything he's done. I got to see a copy of his Othello, part of his Othello, back in high school, and wow, fantastic actor, amazing voice, just phenomenal. Always want to be able to do Darth Vader quotes and actually hit the voice. I'm not sure if I hit it or not. It sounded right in my head. When I watch it again, I'll know if I hit it or not. I ever tell you guys about my idea on an on-stage, like if I was doing live comedy, Mickey Mouse and Dr. Claw just tell awful kids jokes, like so it's Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, which is I'll get you, Gadget, next time. And Mickey Mouse, which is ha ha oh boy. So you put them together for a joke like this. Where does a king keep his armies? Ha! In his sleeveys! That's so bad. When is a door not a door? Ha! When it's a jar! Dr. Claw. Sorry, I know, I'm laughing. It's dead air time. Dr. Claw, why do elephants have red eyes? I don't know. Why do elephants have red eyes? So they can hide in cherry trees. That's ridiculous. Have you ever seen an elephant in a cherry tree? Well, no. write pretty good, don't they? That's Muppet Show bad right there. It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight. Do you know Kermit's the hardest voice to do out of... Kermit the Frog is Jim Henson 1 octave higher. That's it. That's all it is. It is Jim Henson's voice 1 octave higher. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Just Jim Henson 1 octave higher. So he's got this amazing range with Kermit the Frog that you just don't get with other voices when you're doing voice work. Just this amazing range. And it's because it's just his voice 1 octave higher. If you ever listen to Jim Henson in an interview, it's Kermit the Frog 1 octave lower. Or maybe it's only a half octave. It's not that big of a change. And you can do Kermit the Frog, but you're never going to get the same, I guess range is the word we're using today. You're never going to get that same vocal range that Jim Henson had, because you're changing your voice significantly to become Kermit. So when you do Kermit, when you do, "Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here, live from Muppet News," you're just not going to get that same, all the level of intonation and everything that he has is there available for Kermit. So he can respond to Fozzie where, "Oh no, Fozzie, now what are you doing?" And it's less of a, you get more out of it. I have tried so hard to get my Kermit to where a girl I was dating, like the first or second time we were going out, she was amazing. The first or second time we were going out, I did my Mickey, ha ha, oh boy. And she said, "That's great. Can you do Kermit?" I go, "No, I can't do Kermit." So I worked on it. And I think it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but Kermit the Frog is a hard voice to do. And I realized it's too much of a range. It's the same thing with Fry from, what is the name of that show? Futurama. So the guy who's doing Fry's voice is just using his own voice. He didn't want to be able to be replaced. So he just uses his own voice. And so it gives Fry a range that you just can't compete with. It's not like doing a Pooh from The Simpsons, because I forget what other voices that guy does, but like a Pooh is, "It is my Indian voice." Well, his Indian voice. "Thank you for shopping at Quickie Mart. Please come again. Mr. Simpson, you have offended the very core of my religious beliefs. I ask you to leave my store and please come again." That's not quite a quote from The Simpsons, but it's from the episode where Homer stops going to church. It's like season 4. I think it's season 4. Because God shows up for the first time and he has 4 fingers. Very classy. Back when the show was absolutely hilarious, every episode. I'm watching it on the Disney Plus. Love that Disney Plus. What else is going on? So, after I have not seen the new Star Wars yet. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to go in with an open mind. If it's a good movie, I'll tell you it's a good movie. If it's a lousy movie, I'll tell you it's a lousy movie. I'm going to tell you right now, continuity-wise, from an author's perspective, bringing in Palpatine is a huge mistake. Just straight up, huge mistake. I can't see the continuity working for that at all. I just can't. They already did it in Dark Empire, in one of the worst moves in continuity history. All right, let me go back a minute. Let me go back to 1994, so 3 or 4, maybe 2. No, it was probably 3 or 4. So anyway, in 1991, Timothy Zahn published his first novel, in the Star Wars universe, Heir to the Empire. It restarted the Star Wars novels, the whole idea of writing Star Wars novels. Up to that point, the only books that had been published were the novelizations of the original trilogy. Alan Dean Foster's Splinter of the Mind's Eye, 3 Han Solo books, and 3 Lando Calrissian books. All of them good reads. Nothing there was exceptional. Splinter of the Mind's Eye definitely had some continuity issues with it. 1991, they started publishing books again. There's also all the role-playing texts, because in 86, 87, I want to say 87, West End Games got the license to make Star Wars, the Star Wars RPG, the original Star Wars RPG with the D6 system. Yeah, I'm not a geek or anything. Amazing system, great books. Timothy Zahn incorporated those books as reference material for when he wrote his novels. The Interdictor Cruiser in the Timothy Zahn novels was actually from the RPG, from the source materials of the RPG. So there's that. They had little Star Wars stories being published in their adventure journals. It was the only place to get Star Wars news from 1983, Return of the Jedi, all the way to 1991 with Timothy Zahn. And it continuing on until West End Games let the license lapse or whatever happened there. There's a couple of conflicting stories. There's probably a consensus out on the internet. I don't know. I haven't really looked it up since it happened. So, there we go. Timothy Zahn wrote his 3 books. Kathy Tyers wrote Truce of Baccarat. David Wolfgang, is that his name? He wrote The Courtship of Princess Leia. And then Tom Veitch and his artist, I don't know how much. So the imprint was Dark Horse. So DC, from what people say, in DC, the writer for a comic book writes the script, and he does a panel-by-panel breakdown with his script. And then the artist renders that, and then the writer goes back and adds in and changes what he needs to make the panels fit. Then the letterer actually letters the panels. So anyway, in Marvel, at Marvel Comics, it's called The Marvel Way. The artist does the storytelling. They get together with the writer, they come up with a story idea, and then the artist draws it, and then the writer goes back and fits word bubbles into the picture. Not word bubbles. The artist has left room for word bubbles, but he fits as much dialogue as he thinks will fit into the word bubbles, and the letterer comes in and does his job, and that's the Marvel way. I don't know how Dark Horse works. They're an independent system. Haven't done a lot of research, but they got the license for making Star Wars comics. And Tom Veitch, who is the writer for Dark Empire, created the Dark Empire series. Wow, my double chin is really showing today. I gotta get rid of that. Huh. Anyway, Tom Veitch writes Dark Empire. He brings back the Emperor Palpatine, and he kills him off by the end of his graphic novel. Kills him off completely by the end of the graphic novel. But Tom Veitch did that because he didn't care what anyone else was doing in the the Star Wars universe in these new books. He didn't care at all what the other writers were doing. And because he didn't care what the other writers were doing, he just did whatever he wanted. It created humongous continuity errors. And the people at Marvel Marvel has absolutely nothing to do with this back in 1994 or 5 or whenever this happened. Nothing. It is Star Wars and it is Dark Horse. And whoever's printing the books there, Ray, I don't remember. But it has nothing to do with Marvel. I keep mentioning Marvel. I apologize. So the people at Lucas Books had to make a decision. They had to decide if they were going to keep this in continuity or not. And the big problem here is that as editors, they had not really held on to editorial control. Timothy Zahn doesn't need a company to tell him how to keep things inside the universe, how to keep how to keep continuity and verisimilitude and all the rest of that stuff. He doesn't need someone to tell him how to do that because he's an amazing writer. He's an award-winning writer before. That's why Lucas Books contacted him, because he was already an award-winning science fiction writer. And some of that stuff is great. Black Collar, Coming of Age, the Cobra series. Oh, fantastic books. So anyway, and the second Cobra book kind of bogs down. So instead of ignoring what Tom Veitch did, the next author in the series, Kevin J. Anderson, he's the next author to write for Lucas Books. If I slip up and say Lucasfilm, I apologize. I did not have... Sorry. That was a little Bill Clinton impersonation there. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Sorry. It was during his presidency. Does that help at all? No. Yeah, it was. It was right. He got in 92, so this would be during his presidency. First term. Kevin J. Anderson incorporated everything that Tom Veitch did in Dark Empire. He thought it was great. I read Dark Empire, and I'm like, this is the stupidest storyline. And I was just a kid at the time. I mean, 1993 or so. About 93, 94, 95, somewhere in that area. But I was already a comics aficionado. I'd already read probably 5,000 comic books. Read science fiction novels like they were nothing. It's just something to do. I was reading about 2 books a day at that point and getting my schoolwork done. So anyway, there's all sorts of problems with bringing back Emperor Palpatine. Story-wise, it doesn't make sense. When you're dead in Star Wars, you're dead. Unless you manage to become one with the Force, and then you get to be a Jedi Immortal. That's the whole setup for the first 3 movies, is explaining the Jedi, not the first 3 movies, the second 3 movies, the prequels. They're setting up the whole concept of the Force Immortals. That is the backbone for the entire series. For all 6 movies, is Anakin is trying to figure out how to become immortal, how to keep the people he loves from dying. And he's going about it the wrong way. Palpatine doesn't know how to do it. Palpatine can't do it. That's one of the big things about Episode 3, is he promises Anakin he will be able to do this, but it's a false promise, because the only person who figured out how to do it ever up to that point was Qui-Gon Jinn, according to the movies. Qui-Gon Jinn shows Yoda. Yoda shows... what's his butt there? Ooby-Doob Skadooby. What's your middle name? Ooby-Doob Badooby. What's your middle name? Scooby-Dooby. So your full name is Ooby-Dooby Scooby-Dooby Badooby. That's right. I have the silliest name in the galaxy. Touch your tongue to mine. So, have you seen Thumb Wars? I saw Thumb Wars. I recommend it. It was very good. Thumb Wars. Very funny parody. Very funny. The first cut, the shortened version, they drone on some really bad jokes in there. He shows Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan must have taught Luke, or Yoda taught Luke, or whatever, because he's seeing the Force Ghost much better in Return of the Jedi. But, yeah. So the whole point of the first series, the first 3 of the prequels, is that the only way to defeat death is to become a Jedi Immortal. And or ghost, or whatever you want to call it. And they want to keep the secret from Anakin and the Emperor. They don't want them becoming immortal. So one of the reasons, you can argue that one of the reasons that Ooby-Doob Scooby-Doob Badooby wouldn't go with Luke when he went to go confront Vader in Empire Strikes Back is because he didn't want Vader figuring out how to become immortal. Because the last thing they want, the thing they are probably guarding against the most as immortals, is allowing a Darksider to become immortal. That would make a great Star Wars movie. That would be a storyline that the sequels could just have a field day with. We need to stop this Darksider from becoming an immortal. That would be great. From becoming one with the Force. Anyway, it wasn't a great storyline. It's like, the Emperor's dead. Let him be dead. If you bring him back, you're invalidating the sacrifice Vader makes to destroy the Emperor. And they did the whole cloning thing, and it was just awful. I mean, awful. And this is before Attack of the Clones. So the idea of cloning in Star Wars was something that had been mentioned once in A New Hope. As far as movie references go, that's all we know about cloning. That's it. And that line is, you fought with my father in the Clone Wars? Luke talking to Ooby-Doob. That's it. That's the whole quote. You fought with my father in the Clone Wars? That's it. That's all we know about the Clone Wars. So when Disney bought Marvel, now I'm going to change the subject here. I was incredibly ecstatic when Disney bought Marvel because continuity in the extended universe in the books was crap. They had not kept Lucasfilm had not kept editorial control. And I was hoping I was hoping Disney would put down some editorial controls, some rules, some serious continuity and verisimilitude, and really drive. They said, we're putting together a story group. We're going to make sure everything is continuity with each other. And then they didn't. They put together a story group, and they just didn't keep a lid on it. So they obviously, Disney owns Marvel. Marvel Comics got the contract for making Star Wars comics, and now a number of those Star Wars comics have been tossed out of continuity. They've made a number of books. I don't know if any of the books have been tossed out of continuity yet. They made 2 TV shows, one of which got canceled. Rebels and The Resistance, I think. I don't know. They're on Disney Plus. I haven't watched them yet. Loving that Disney Plus. That is an amazing catalog. There's so much stuff on. The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon is on there. I loved that cartoon. It was so good. I can't believe they canceled it. And they didn't cancel it for ratings. They canceled it because Marvel wanted to go in a different direction. That's how important continuity is to Marvel. So seeing what DC did with the Marvel and the Marvel MCU and everything, they've done a fantastic job. The continuity hasn't been perfect, but it's been so good. So good. And it's amazing inside the MCU. Except for Captain Marvel. At no point do they mention the Avengers in Captain Marvel. Not the Avengers. At no point do they mention the Asgardians in Captain Marvel, which they really should have. They need to fix that in Captain Marvel 2. I'll meet again in Captain Marvel 2. The search for more money. Love Mel Brooks. So I was very happy that Disney had bought Star Wars. And I was expecting them to do an amazing job with continuity, like they had for Marvel. Marvel's got an amazing continuity. Well, the MCU does. And they didn't. They haven't. This is a bit of a criticism. I still go and see all your movies, so it's not like I'm saying not to. And the movies themselves tend to be very enjoyable. Last Jedi was very watchable, as long as you're not paying attention to a couple of key things. I think some of the stuff got lost in the edits. But as far as continuity with the rest of the series go, you have all sorts of problems between 7 and 8, between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And so going forward, do you, as a writer, as a director, as a company, do you choose to, in number 9, do you choose to continue on with 8, or do you retcon part of 8? Do you say this didn't really mean that, and this didn't really mean that? Or what do you decide to do as an author? Which is a great question. I can't wait to see exactly what they do. I can't believe they brought back Palpatine. I would have loved to have been given that challenge. I think, what's his name there? Kylo Ren had been built up at the end of 8 to be this amazingly evil. Like, he's irredeemable. He was irredeemable. He was pretty much irredeemable after The Force Awakens. You would have had to have one heck of an arc to redeem him after The Force Awakens. But he is completely committed after The Force Awakens to the dark side. And then in 8, he doubles down. He just doubles down. So now he's your big bad. He's got to be the big bad. Like, as soon as I heard they were bringing back Palpatine, I was like, no! You've got Kylo! You've got Kylo! Make him the big bad! And Rey has to lose the fight. That's the key thing, to really cement Kylo Ren. Yeah, to really cement Kylo as the big bad. They have to have a fight at the beginning of the movie, and she has to lose. I mean, seriously lose to this guy. And instead of a few years later, one of the worst as a... All right, here's a couple of critiques for The Last Jedi. 1, fuel stories are boring stories, okay? They are. Go watch the original series of Star Trek. See if you can stay awake through any of the episodes, and there were far too many of them where they're running out of dilithium crystal. We're running out of dilithium. I don't have enough power, Captain. We're running out of dilithium crystals. I don't think it'll last. It's a boring story. Never do the... Why are you going to Star Trek for your storylines anyway? Why? It's a boring story. Star Trek and Star Wars are two very different things. And you can appreciate them both, but they are not the same. And you're going to the worst Star Trek stories. These are the stories that make... So when you're watching the original series of Star Trek, some of those episodes are absolutely amazing. I mean, the struggles, the questions, the morality they bring up, some of the science they bring in, fantastic. And some of those stories are crap. And that's fine. You got to take chances. Sometimes it's a swing and a miss, and sometimes it's a home run. You know, that's part of writing, is learning what works and what doesn't. That's part of making a television series, is sometimes you have stinkos, and sometimes you got amazing stuff that people will keep coming back for. But man, why would you do a fuel story? That's so boring. But they doubled down on Kylo Ren. I keep calling him Ben. I call him Benlo, actually. They doubled down on Benlo being irredeemable and becoming the big bad. Make him the big bad. I mean, use that. Make him the big bad. Have Rey lose. Have her have to go through training and retraining and a healing sequence and all of that. Go through all of that so that when she comes back at the end of the movie, like, make it like a Rocky movie. She comes back at the end of the movie, she defeats him, bring in the whole... Now, they haven't done enough world building in TFA and TLJ because we don't really understand as an audience the role of the New Republic, the size of the New Republic in regards to the First Order, the size of the Resistance. The Resistance probably works inside the borders of the First Order and then zips out into the New Republic. But none of this is established. And part of the reason why none of this is established is because the Last Jedi takes over one day later. Like, the part with, what's her butt there? Rey. The part with Rey takes over the second after The Force Awakens ends. So it goes 1 second after we start The Last Jedi. So all of that stuff with... So now we actually have... If you're paying attention to the moment by moment, how the story is actually running, it takes Rey very little time to get from her planet to where the Resistance is fighting on the planet that's not Hoth, on the salt planet there, because they make little marks on the ground and it's red because it's salt. It's salt. Okay, whatever. Nothing wrong with another ice planet. Nothing wrong with it at all. There's a couple in Star Wars itself. Can't name them off the top of my head, but there are a few. Yeah. So we see in The Last Jedi, she gets to where the fleet is very quickly. She leaves whatever planet she's on with Luke, and she gets to where the fleet is going very quickly. And the fleet can't have gone very far because the amount of time it takes for her to get from where the Resistance base was to Luke's planet is apparently very short. Because again, we see for the first time, we get a really good idea of how long it takes to jump through hyperspace. It is something that Luke has always kept vague. So It's never been incredibly long, but there's always been a certain amount of time involved in the travel. And in The Last Jedi, it takes seconds to get to where they're going. It's like no time at all. They completely disregard the continuity of time for the amount of time it takes to travel, which is too bad, but they did it, so there you go. And that causes a continuity problem, because what planet is the Resistance on, where they're meeting up with General Hux at the very beginning of the movie, where Poe goes flying up to him and he's taunting him and whatnot. Are they on the same planet they were on when they launched the attack against the Starkiller base from TFA? Have they moved? How did the Empire get to there so fast? How did the Empire find them? Why would anyone ask these questions? It's not like we're trying to understand the story or anything. I really enjoyed TLJ when I watched it. I really did. I shut my brain off and enjoyed the movie. It is a fun movie, but it glosses over details, and that's a problem. It's a problem because longtime fans want to be able to geek out over the movies. That's your fan base. This is why you bought Star Wars. You bought Star Wars for the fan base, because the fan base spends money on the product. These are your long-term loyal customers. You don't want to lose these. If, as Sam Malone put it in an episode of Cheers, these are my regulars. If I lose my regulars, I lose my business. Well, your fans are your regulars. You don't want to lose your regulars. You want to increase the number of regulars you have. You want to increase the guys who are going to drop $100 on a lightsaber. That's not me, by the way. Most I ever spent on a lightsaber was $12, and that was for a school project. No, it wasn't $12. It was $8. I'm cheap. I'll buy some of them Lego sets, but no, I'm pretty cheap. I don't buy a ton of stuff, and what I do buy is mostly Lego. Love those Legos. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But the people who buy the amazing lightsabers, guys like Nathan Fillion from Firefly, who tells a great, if you can find his lightsaber story, he's got this great lightsaber story where he goes out and he buys one of them crafted super hamster lightsabers that won't break when you whack them against another lightsaber. And he sees another guy, as he's driving down a street going home, he sees another guy in the neighborhood has a lightsaber out. So he rushes home, grabs his lightsaber, runs down the street, and just makes the noise. The lightsaber comes up. The guy turns around, looks at him, and I don't remember. You have to go see what Fillion says. But basically, Fillion's there to, enjoy it, to play it up, to ham it up, to do the scene, to get into a lightsaber fight with this guy, and have a little fun. And the guy goes, "Oh, cool, man. You got a lightsaber, too." If you're watching this, Fillion, and I know you're not, but if one day you do, I will go out and buy a $100 lightsaber to lightsaber fight with you. I normally wouldn't, because I have nobody to lightsaber fight with. But if you need a lightsaber partner, let me know. I can swing $100 probably, depending on the week. So yeah, they get bogged down. The fans are going to bog down into details. You got to get the details right. You need a story guy to watch over this, and that's what Disney didn't do. They didn't keep the story guy. Now the original EU was already broken. And it was broken because it was broken from the very beginning, from 1991 when Heir to the Empire was published. It was broken from the very beginning because George Lucas gave Timothy Zahn and all other writers two rules that they had to follow from the very beginning. He added a few, but 2 rules from the very beginning. Rule number 1, Clone Wars is off limits, because that's what he was starting to work on for the prequels. He says, I don't want you guys saying anything about the Clone Wars. Rule number 2, Jedi ghosts are off limit. You can't do anything with the Jedi ghosts. Those were his 2 rules. I got that from an interview with a couple of different authors. Have mentioned that those were the 2 rules, starting with Zahn. And because of that, now here's the thing. The presence of the Jedi Immortals, the ghosts, the beings who are one with the Force, are completely going to change anything that comes after Return of the Jedi. any story written after Return of the Jedi has to incorporate the fact that Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Yoda, and probably Mace Windu are all available for Luke to talk to whenever he wants to. Whenever he wants to. He can get guidance from them. He can talk to them. At any point after Return of the Jedi, he can communicate with those Jedi. And Anakin, he can communicate with those who are one with the Force. And that's going to change the nature of the story. We need to know how powerful those characters are actually going to be. And all of that, sorry, I'm getting text messages that people are trying to sell me stuff, which is nice. Except I don't want the text messages, and I didn't sign up for them, so I guess it's not nice. It's nice that they want to sell stuff to me, though. Good luck to them. I'm cheap. We may have mentioned that earlier. I have like $5 lightsabers. No, I needed it it wasn't for a school project. I was being a Jedi for Halloween one year. That was my costume. And people knew I was a Jedi because I had a cheap $8 lightsaber clipped onto my belt. They're like, what's your costume? I'm a Jedi. I had 2 of them, actually. I bought 2 $8 lightsabers so I could give one to somebody so we could duel. So, Fillion, again, Nate, if you are watching this, just so you know, I've done the lightsaber duels with the cheap lightsabers. So, if you're willing to settle for a $6 to $8 lightsaber duel, right here, I'll do it. I'll give you a run for your money, and I'll quote Star Wars. I'll even play Vader. Huh? You can be Luke. Huh? You know you want to. So, what was I talking about? So the EU was already messed up because they weren't allowed to talk about this stuff. And the whole concept of having an immortal Jedi who can train you, who can teach you, who can be with you and advise you, and can go to any point in the galaxy, theoretically, or go and be at any point, show up on any planet, I guess. I don't know. We don't know what their power level is. But to have an advisor like that with you the whole time of your storytelling, that's going to change the way you tell your story. That's going to have a major impact on the story, and the EU got rid of them. Got rid of them in the second scene. The second scene of Heir to the Empire is Luke's last communication with Obi-Wan before Obi-Wan continued to the next step of his journey. And Zahn did that purposely because he wasn't allowed to use the Jedi Ghost. So he closed them out because they weren't allowed to be used anymore. But we learn in the prequels, in Revenge of the Sith, that that Qui-Gon came back and that the Jedi Ghosts are available for teaching. And it changes everything. It's huge. It changes absolutely everything. The EU is now broken beyond repair. The advent of, what do you call that? Revenge of the Sith, when that movie came out, it completely destroyed the EU. There was no way of fixing it. None. Because everything would have been different than what actually happened. There's some great stories in the EU. You can draw from them. You can use them. Please do. But the EU had to die. And when Disney took over, they said the EU's canceled. We're done with the EU. You can enjoy the stories, but it's a different universe. And I'm the only one out of my group of Star Wars friends. I am the only one who cheered that decision because I knew the continuity was broken. And then they just didn't care about it enough to keep it alive, which is too bad. Disney. If anybody at Disney or Lucasfilms or however you break down your corporate whatever, if you were looking for a continuity guru, I will happily do that job for you. Happily do that job. Gonna need some money. You're gonna have to at least match my current salary, which would be a pittance for you guys. But I would happily do that job for you if you're looking for somebody. So, yeah. I gotta go. It's 40 minutes I've been doing this talk. This has been an impromptu video. Probably not gonna get the Johnny Storm video up today. I'll probably do that tomorrow or tonight or something before work. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.